when I took over, in my time I was in the election commission as first the youngest member, then the second member, and then became the CEC. That was the period when EVM controversy was at its peak. And who was the critic of the EVM? Who are the greatest champion of it today? The BJP. They even wrote a book called Democracy at Risk, a very well documented book, and I even bought 2 copies and I want my refund now. He says we are not saying that the EVM can manipulate results. We are not saying that they have manipulated in the past or they will do it in future. All we are saying is it doesn't have transparency. How many EVM to be counted, on which I have some suggestion to give, but maybe later.
Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. Of course, Dr. Quraishi does not need an introduction in the Indian Express newsroom, but I will still attempt one because we have to introduce your book in order to set the stage for this conversation. Dr. Quraishi, as we all know, is the former Chief Election Commissioner of India. He's amongst the most authoritative voices on democracy and electoral processes. For this book, he has combined his vantage point as a practitioner of one of the biggest elections in the world with the eye of a scholar. His latest book, Democracy's Heartland, Inside the Battle for Power in South Asia, expands his gaze from India to the South Asian countries, and it essentially offers a comparative study of how democracy is faring in this region. And in this book, he has essentially argued that South Asia is both central to the global story of democracy, but it's caught in a paradox of decline and defiance, and we will come to that eventually in the conversation. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Sir, I'll start this conversation with a hot button issue, which of course I think everyone expects to start with that, which is Nepal. I'm sure you had finished the book by the time, of course, the country witnessed the Gen Z protests. But in your book, you have described Nepal as a relatively bright spot with credible elections, that inclusivity is written into its constitution. But you also have noted the fact that it has faced chronic instability. So, given the current political flux, do you see this instability as a passing phase, for a young democracy, or do you think that this could threaten the democratic experience? And I ask this question because Bangladesh, which has witnessed a similar uprising over a year ago, that eventually did not lead to a democratic consolidation, if we can call it that, or that country still doesn't have a democratically elected government in place. So given that context, I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you. But if you permit me just to put the book in the context, I would like to answer 2 questions which you haven't asked.
Okay.
One, why this book?
Okay.
And the reason is, and why the title of this book, Democracy's Heartland. I discovered, I was given a fellowship by FICCI and King's College London in 2015 for 2-3 months, where we were supposed to write a research paper on a subject of our choice and give 2-3 public lectures and come back. So I was the third in a series. Shyam Saran was first, and Vikram Mehta was the second, and I was the third. And I had chosen democracy and electoral challenges in South Asia. South Asia, at that point when I was working, included 17 countries, 8 of SAARC and 9 or 11 of ASEAN region. So that became too unwieldy. Sunil Khilnani, who was the director of India Institute at King's College, and he also said, what have you undertaken? It's an impossible task, just pick up 2 countries. Now that made no sense to me. If we pick up which 2 countries and compare, it's neither here nor there. Then I, of course, reduced it and I said at least SAARC, because this is a unit and a very distinct unit. And when I started studying, I came across very important statistics, which will be of interest to you and your readers also, that 8 countries of the world out of 203 have 25% of world's population in these 8 countries, and 40% of world's democracy lives in these 8 countries. So, and nobody knows about it. Nobody cares for it. This region is highly neglected. No UN organization, no international donors, no academic community. Nobody really bothers about it. Whereas this is the hub of democracy in the world, and it does influence at least the region, if not the wider world. That was one. Second thing which I have encountered in my experiences going to Oxford, Cambridge, or wherever I was giving lecture, particularly in London, there is SOAS, there is London School of Economics, the King's College, all of them have a South Asia center. But whenever there is a function on South Asia, 99% it is on India. And I have seen and I have heard people murmur about it. They are from other countries. Look, we are also South Asia. You're only talking about India, India, India. There is more to South Asia than India. I thought that was a very valid point, and which became a theme of my book. Now Nepal. My book, incidentally, is in 3 parts. First is introduction is a bit longish because that actually becomes the first part. Second is country profiles of all these 8 countries. Basically starting from their history, in the history of their independence and democracy and all that. So that is quite reader friendly and easy to refer, because at the end there is a one-page facts at a glance also. And third is theme-wise comparison. So now the easier way out would have been, as I say, what are the position of women in every country. So I said Nepal, Bhutan, this, that. That would have been very childish. So the comparison you will see is running woven into the text so intricately, so perfectly, that it's a sophisticated reading, I would say. Uh, on that basis, now coming to Nepal. Now, I have found that there is so much to learn from each country. We are very contemptuous of us because we are very, very arrogant of our democracy. We are the largest democracy in the world. Indeed, we are. And then we are considered as big brother. So that is also not fair, because if we are big, we cannot be faulted for being big. So at the same time, we should not behave like a big brother, but maybe as elder brother. So that is what I have tried to argue, that India has to do a little handholding. Now Nepal, you mentioned about instability. In the last 70 years, we have had only one constitution, they have had 7. And we hear from the media reports that the 8th is a possibility. So if they work with the 7th only, which was a very good constitution of 2015, and if they work under that constitution, that will be ideal, but it is up to them. In the last 5 years, there have been 5 prime ministers. So instability, and we have heard of Ayaram, Gayaram in the context of MLAs switching sides, or even MPs. In that case, PMs were always doing the musical chairs all the time. So young people, people in general, youth in particular, were disgusted with that, and those signs were writ large, and they were using social media to comment on it. That was the hidden provocation for Nepal government to target the social media. But they came out with an official reason that these agencies had no office in Kathmandu, we could not regulate them, and they asked them to set up their offices in Kathmandu, which they all ignored. And after that, about 27 of them, they were all banned. Now, they didn't realize, and we should also realize, that social media has become lifeline of every nation. It is like air that we breathe. We can't see, but if the moment we run out of oxygen, we all die, drop dead. So when entire social media died, 10% of Nepalis live abroad and expired there. This is their income, is their first mainstay of their economy. So complete breakdown of communication. They went mad. They went berserk because there was no way. and forget politics, their own personal matters, health matters, family matters, they all got endangered, and that is when they came out on the streets. You asked a question which has been asked by others also, and I have commented on it, for which I have been criticized, that actually this youth movement is not anti-democracy, it is for democracy, for a better democracy, for a cleaner democracy, for a deepening of democracy. And initially their protest was very peaceful. Young students with their school bags and the books in hand, they had come out to protest against corruption, and immediately for lifting the ban on social media, which the government refused to do. So when they were protesting, since the government was arrogant, they fired on these protesters, young people, students, and 19 died on the very first day. And the firing happened only one day, but 19 died on the first day. But later on, the death figures have moved to about 70. You imagine the magnitude of the firing, and we were told that they were not to hit the leg, but to kill them. So after that, there was no stopping the youth. So, and if they became violent, if they went berserk, to say that that is anarchy, I would say that was a provocation, and they did not mean to be anarchic. And the proof is that after the things calm down, two proofs. After the things calm down, they came out on the street, cleaning the streets, cleaning the mess. And secondly, now who should take over? Normally, if it was a struggle, the subtitle of my book, Inside the Battle for Power in South Asia. So was it a battle for power? No, because they did on one of these media, I forget which one it is, they did a referendum who should become the interim prime minister. There were three candidates, and they chose Sushila Karki for the first woman Chief Justice of Nepal. They could have chosen one of the two leaders themselves. No, they did not, which goes to their credit. Now, choosing Sushila Karki, now who is Sushila Karki? She was the first woman Chief Justice of Nepal, and she was known for her anti-corruption crusade, for which she actually retired in disgrace, because an impeachment motion was brought against her, and because of that she was suspended, and she retired from suspension. So, but who knew that the same people who suspended her and brought impeachment motion, they will be coming face to face with her someday in a different capacity. But that is where Nepal stands.
But coming back to my question, which was that given what's happened in Bangladesh, where of course a person with a formidable reputation was also tasked with the responsibility of heading an interim government, there's still one in place. Do you think that it may just backslide into, say, the Bangladesh situation where they don't have an elected government in place, or how do you see this going forward?
Correct. A very good question and a very good comparison, because Nepal I have already described young people who protested and brought the government down. They are not anti-democratic. They want democracy, more democracy, better democracy, and as proved, and as I mentioned. Now, 1 month before the Bangladesh election, I was in Dhaka, and I had a 1 hour long meeting with Sheikh Hasina, in which, besides discussing various things, then she very clearly mentioned that there was some country out to for change of regime in Bangladesh. She named USA, and she made a very interesting remark. I didn't realize that she has a sense of humor. She said, US is asking me to be friendly with the Khaleda Zia and be friendly with the opposition. And she said, the day I see Donald Trump and Biden shaking hands, I will go and hug Khaleda Zia. So I thought that was a very smart answer. Very smart answer. So, and what we saw eventually happened within a month. She said that they are going to do it, and this is what happened. And the reports which we have heard, that how the guy who has come in position now has been a donor to Hillary Clinton's foundation, And for the last 30 years or so, she has been, the Clintons have been wanting a regime change and to plant Muhammad Yunus there, and they succeeded. So therefore, the reason for the government falling in Nepal and government falling in Bangladesh are different. But there is no denying that there was a lot of resentment brewing against Sheikh Khaleda Zia, Sheikh Hasina, because she had become very authoritarian, and because of coming to power repeatedly. So authoritarianism has a expiry date. After some time, there is a reaction, and people were angry and upset with her because she had stopped listening to Sen and council, and that way she was becoming very unpopular. However, whether her tenure was autocratic or not, if your report, I'm the main, I only mainly read Indian Express. I must have read it in your paper only. That human development indicators of Bangladesh have shot up recently. In many indicators, they have overtaken India. So much so that there was a joke that there used to be migration from Nepal to India for in search of employment, and time will come that there will be reverse migration because Bangladesh is now doing well economically. So anyway, another distinct feature of Bangladesh is the two women dominated the scene, and between them, I think for 3 or 4 terms they have done together. Now, one is exceptionally one time a woman prime minister comes and then she goes into oblivion. In this case, it became a norm. So, which is a good thing. And in any case, Bangladesh constitution has provision for women's participation, and I can even tell you the details because since it will go into your thing. Do you want me to just give you a couple of facts on Bangladesh alone? Yeah. Women reserved seats filled by MPs using the Article 65(3), two women party leadership, caretaker, sorry. Now, the directly women, elected women seat in local government and union parishad. This is what they have. They have reservation for women in parliament and their provincial assemblies. And these are some of the positive things. Then another interesting feature of Bangladesh has been an interim caretaker government. And the elections were held under the caretaker government between 96 and 2011. Sheikh Hasina, the conflict with the opposition and Sheikh Hasina was because she abandoned this interim government concept, and they thought that there will be no free and fair elections under her. They wanted an interim government. Well, I had gone there about 8-9 years ago, and again I had a long meeting with Sheikh Hasina where she came with her 7 top advisors, and I was there only for a courtesy call along with my High Commissioner Pankaj Saran. So, and their High Commissioner then told me, sir, if you're going to Bangladesh and if you call on Sheikh Hasina, please tell her the importance of election commission and its neutrality. So that was my subject when I mentioned. So she was defensive. She said, there earlier it used to be directly appointed by me, but now I had interim government had started a shortlisting committee which shortlist 5 candidates and from which we choose, and I have not discontinued that. So she was defending herself for whatever little effort she was doing for credible election, but obviously it was not enough. So that is another thing which happened. Then earliest nota, by the way, was in Bangladesh in 2008, whereas we started nota in 2014. And another thing in which Bangladesh scores over us, that there is we have been crying hoarse that there is an expenditure on candidates expenditure in the campaign. There is a expenditure ceiling, but not on the party, which is actually ridiculous because you can spend 97 lakhs, but your party spends 30 crores on you. So what kind of a cap is this? But there, even the party level spending is capped and limited, which is something very, very good. And but more or less, this is what are
So
the
how is
important
the
things.
nota system fared in Bangladesh? We still, I
No,
mean,
I haven't looked into its working, but we have not heard anything good or bad about it. So it must be just working fine. But
sure.
we haven't. I haven't gone on into the detail.
So, in your country profiles in the book, obviously you describe the electoral process followed in each country. And the House of Representatives in Nepal follows a hybrid model, if we can call it that, which is a part of it is elected via first past the post system, and a part of it is proportional representation.
Yes.
I bring that up because I want to hear your thoughts. So recently here in India, the first past the post system is what we follow, has come under a lot of criticism, where there is a feeling from certain quarters that parties which may not have the majority share of the national vote percentage are still in power. And in your book too, you've noted that the first past the post system produces stable majorities, but it can disadvantage ethnic minorities and smaller groups, giving majoritarian dominance and disproportionality in representation. Um, Given Nepal's experiment, how it's been electing its parliament, and given ours, what do you think works better? Do you think Nepal's hybrid offers a better democratic bargain, or do you think our experiment uh, works better because it offers stability, which, of course, as we know, Nepal hasn't had?
Yes. When I wrote my first book called An Undocumented Wonder, The Making of the Great Indian Election, in that I described all the systems which are available around the world, and I supported FPTP, first part the post, giving all the benefits that this is simpler, this is the oldest system, we have been doing it for all these years, and we followed it from US, UK, and it is running pretty fine there also. And my first review was written by Kavan Natwar Singh in Mail Today, and in which the only thing which he brought in for praise was my support of FTPT. But I must admit, the book came out in the middle of 2014 election. And after the election, my second and third edition came. In the third edition, I updated it and I changed my opinion.
Okay.
Not out of fickle mindedness, but because of experience on the ground. What happened was that Mayawati got the third largest vote share of 20%. With how many seats? Zero seats. No, this is not a representative democracy. 20% people, their voice is absent in parliament. So at least proportional system will give some votes, some seats to under that system, which is originally a German model. Everybody talks about the mixed system of the German model, which was picked up by Sri Lanka first. In Pakistan also it is there, and Nepal has this, and it's not equal, but some seats are reserved for proportional representation, which is a very good thing. But coming back to Nepal is superior to us in 2 3 other ways also. First of all, we have now passed the reservation for
They've
women
had,
bill
yeah.
after 30 40 years of dialogue, and keeping it in suspension. 30% constitutional quota for women. As a result, 40% in the local bodies, 33% in provincial assemblies, and 37.3% in the National Assembly are women. Already, we are only 15%, by the way, currently, up from 7, 11, and now 15, but it has been very, very slow. Now, between the president and the vice president, one of them has to be a woman. Very progressive. Between a mayor and a deputy mayor, every party has to put up one woman candidate, at least one of the two. As a result, 75% of all deputy mayors, because surely they were because of the constitutional compulsion, they went through it. But instead of making them mayor, they made most of them deputy mayor. But at least it is something to be commended. Now, because of the PR list, almost more or less 50% women, as you see, 40%, 37%, and Dalits 13% because the PR list. Because in the PR, you can only choose out of the fixed list women and Dalits. Then the most important thing, which is a highly debated topic in India and very controversial, appointment of the election commissioners. You know, so it went to the Supreme Court, and they said, yes, there has to be the bipartisan selection and not unilaterally by the government of the day. And a collegium was set up. In the first draft, the collegium was fine. It had Prime Minister, Chief Justice, and Leader of Opposition. In the second draft, which finally became an act, they made a mockery of the collegium system, because it is Prime Minister, second member is a union minister appointed by the PM, and the third is leader of opposition. So what is the conclusion of the collegium? Obviously, it is 2-1, already known. So it really is a mockery.
But which
But
model?
here, not only the election commission, all constitutional posts are go through two stages. One, a constitutional council, which consists of the three which I mentioned, plus a speaker in Nepal. After that, listen to this carefully, a joint parliamentary committee drawn from all parties, from both houses, of 15 people, investigates and interrogates them. They sit in front, like I'm sitting in front of you, and they interrogate the. And in fact, if I may bring in something personal, you may include it or you may delete it later. But my wife was Ila Sharma was the election commissioner of Nepal, and there was a strong possibility that she will be chosen as Supreme Court judge. But she said, okay, look, when I go to this committee, they will grill me on marrying an Indian. Marrying a Muslim was not the issue in Nepal. In India, it is. They are not in Nepal. But they said they will surely grill me on marrying an Indian. And she was all the time rehearsing a dialogue to defend her case.
But like I was asking, sir, what is the model that you think works best? Would you be in favor of proportional representation, a hybrid model, or first past the post system? Each system does have its flaws.
Correct. I have, as I said in my third edition of that book, I changed my stance and I said the hybrid model is the best idea. Just as from German model, Sri Lanka modified it. German model is a little complex. So there are so many ifs and buts and questions. So Sri Lankan is a bit better. Nepal is much simpler. It is definitely a better system, because every section of society should feel that they have a voice in parliament, even if it's small, it has to be there. And their selection of commissioners, although the appointments are done on a political representation. One party has a quota of 2, another party has a quota of 2, and another has 1. But this process makes sure that good people come. And as a result, they did 2 elections under the 2015 constitution in 2017 and 19. And they were fantastic. No comment, no question ever raised. So their elections were very good and credible because of the credibility of the election commission.
Sir, I'll ask one more question and then I'll also throw the floor open to more questions. In your book, you've described India both as an anchor and a cautionary tale for and a cautionary tale of sorts for South Asian democracy. Of course, it's a country which has conducted elections on unmatched scale, and that it is still capable of global leadership, democratic leadership. But at the same time, you've pointed to the fact that it does have weakened institutions. There is majoritarian populism. Coming to the question of weakened institutions, you have headed one of the constitutional authorities in the country. In this day and age, how weak or strong do you think the current election commission as an institution is?
Well, I think it's better for me not to answer this, because it is for you to answer. Are you happy? Raise your hand, those of you who are happy. That is my answer. Not one hand went up. Why? Surely something has gone wrong. And when I criticize, I'm criticized back by certain segments of the population. And you should realize that I'm concerned not only as a citizen of India, but as a person who also laid a brick or two to that institution. In our time, and mind you, you always used to say that the credibility, very high credibility of this institution made our task easier. We could even get away, we could get away with murders, because if we made a mistake, after all 15 million people are our staff who conduct the election, there will be some mistake here or there, but people will forgive. They will never blame the election commission or its motive. They will think, somebody down the line, had goofed and made a mistake. So if you have credibility, even your mistakes are forgiven, and if you don't have credibility, even your bona fide steps are questioned, they're suspected. So, and second thing I would like to say, that whenever I hear an attack on election commission, which I hear very often, it hits me as if somebody is slapping me, because this is an institution I identify myself with, and I feel very hurt that the questions that are being raised about it. And I keep telling my younger colleagues there, they are all wiser than me for sure, much brighter, but they have to do some introspection. If the image has gone down, and there are studies which show that where rating was 90% and 95% has come down to 30, 35, so you can't brush it under the carpet. So some introspection has to be done, and it is entirely in their hand to make sure that this doesn't happen, and we get back our glory and our credibility.
But the EC is no stranger to controversies. It's had questions, uh, for instance, the EVMs, even before the current commission, the one before that, even right after EVMs were introduced in the early 2000s. EC's had its credibility questions even in the past. What do you think is different about the challenges and the questions it's facing now, and how do you think the institution can try and respond to it better?
First of all, it is very important to know that an institution is basically the incumbent personality, whatever. If he or she is good, institution is good. If he or she is bad, the institution is bad. And that is what Dr. Ambedkar said, that we have a great constitution, and it is great only if it goes into great hands. In bad people's hand, it will be a disastrous document. This is what Ambedkar said then. Imagine. Therefore, it is a question of individuals' personality, their temperament. For instance, you mentioned EVM controversy. These were the controversies were not anti-election commission. They were in a particular bit use of EVM, that the EVM can be manipulated. And when I took over, in my time, I was in the election commission as first the youngest member, then the second member, and then became the CEC. That was the period when EVM controversy was at its peak. And who was the critic of the EVM? Who are the greatest champion of it today? The BJP. They even wrote a book called Democracy at Risk, and very well documented book, and I even bought 2 copies, and I want my refund now. So 2 copies, and they were attacking the EVM, and now it was a question of handling. Somebody before me was not taking the comment seriously. When I came, that was my temperament. I'm a liberal by birth. The first thing I did was to call a meeting of all political parties. Because why should I be defending EVM? My concern is to give you a free and fair election is much more than you. You may have only interest. It is my constitutional mandate and duty to give the nation a free and fair election. So, and why should I be defending EVM? If people raise questions, anybody who raises question is my friend and not my enemy. That was my thing. I immediately called a meeting of all political parties, and it was led by Chandrababu Naidu. And first of all, and of course, there were Lalu, there were Om Prakash, Chautala ji, and others, many others. And first of all, my comment when I saw Chandrababu, and I said, Chandrababu ji, I'm surprised to see you, because you are an icon of technology, and you are leading an anti-technology agitation. And for me, the challenge is that I let you out of this room as a brand ambassador of EVM. Now tell me what you have to say. And before that, in fact, I asked Chautala ji, what is your grievance? He says, ask Chandrababu ji. हमने लालू जी से पूछा आपको क्या ग्रीवेंस है, आज चंद्रबाबू जी, तो everybody, he was the leader, everybody was the follower, they all. So then we asked Chandrababu Naidu ji, what is your problem? He says, look, mind you, careful, listen to this carefully. He says, we are not saying that the EVM can manipulate results. We are not saying that they have manipulated in the past or they will do it in future. All we are saying is it doesn't have transparency. What does it mean? When you press a button, it goes into a machine. You cannot physically see that it is going to the desired candidate. So it is your belief, because we are telling you that it is going to the right belief, and it is not just our word that you will take it blindly. We do 3 mock polls where we demonstrate to you that your vote is going to the right place. So I said, then how do you want transparency? He says, use VVPAT, voter verifiable paper audit trail. How will it function? We discussed detail. Believe me, in the same meeting, we took the decision. Yes, there is going to be VVPAT. Same day, I called up the 2 factories which make these machines, BEL and ECIL in Hyderabad, Bangalore and Hyderabad, respectively. That please go to the drawing board, start making things. One of our dilemmas which delayed this decision was that while EVM is a solid state machine, whereas printer which will print these slips is an electromechanical device. There is movement. Any moving machine with moving parts is more likely to go out of order than a solid state machine. And to give you an analogy which will make you understand the point, your calculator has not misbehaved in the last 10 years, but your computer printer misbehaves every second day. Paper jam, toner gone, something or the other, because it is an electromechanical device. So now, if EVM goes wrong, which it does, out of the 2 million, about 4,000 went wrong in our time. For that, we have a provision. After all, it's a machine, something can happen. So within 30 minutes, we have to replace it. 4,000 of 2 lakhs is nothing much. But if it is a printer, it is likely to go 2 lakh machines going out of order. Now, the interruption of the poll has a very serious law and order implication. If for 30 days there is a queue of 400 people outside and I tell you the polling booth is closed because the machine has gone out of order, we are waiting for a replacement, in 30 seconds there could be law and order problem. It can be stoned, it can be brick batted. So imagine if it was to happen in 2 lakh polling stations, what chaos it will be. And at that time, we even discussed the possibility of having a duplicate printer. Then we realized that we are a poor country after all. This printer costs about 14,000 rupees. We can't have, chalo, safety ke liye hum ek aur laga denge. I remember, once I was stranded at Lucknow airport, and the flight was very delayed, and I made a very foolish remark. It says, don't you have a standby plane? उस पे उसने बताया कि आर यू क्रेजी कि 400 करोड़ का प्लेन हम सिर्फ इसलिए कि डिले हो जाएगी रखेंगे. मुझे आज तक याद है कि मेरे I could ask such a silly question. Similarly, इतनी हजारों करोड़ के हम डुप्लीकेट मशीन रखेंगे, हमने कहा नहीं चलेगा. So we developed those machines, and it took about 1 year. Then we wanted to test them in the real-time situation, and we chose 5 cities, and you will notice that just look at the selection of those cities. Trivandrum as a coastal area, Leh Ladakh, mountain, Jaisalmer, desert, Delhi as a normal Indian city, and Cherrapunji as a rainy city. And we did a whole day long exercise, and there was about 30-40% glitches, which was not acceptable. We sent it back to the company, go back to the drawing board, work out again. And exactly a year later, I had retired, exactly in the same 5 places, exactly on the same date, because there are many factors which could influence it. Month of July, same date, same places, we did it again. This time it worked well, and immediately we ordered 20,000. Delhi, Sheila Dixit's first election was with EVM, Nagaland was with EVM, it worked very well, and it has been going on. So I have been a defender of EVM till the last day, better than the other defenders which I talked about. And only thing is how many EVM to be counted, on which I have certain I have some suggestion to give, but maybe later.
But sir, just as how you described that at the time when you faced questions, when you were heading the institution, let's suppose उस वक्त वही allegations आए होते which Congress is making now about the voters list. As the CC, how would you have responded to that allegation?
You know, good question. Because as I said, I am liberal, and the man at the top has to be liberal and open-minded. My office knew very clearly that any leader, particularly leader from the opposition party seeking an appointment, should be given an appointment within 5 minutes. And my clear instructions was that for me, the opposition gets preference. They are the underdog because party in power can get many things done. If these are the people out of power, they are the underdog. They should be given top priority. Which is the reason, and who was the underdog and who was the opposition party at that time? The BJP. And they were the beneficiary of my liberalism because they, every time, as a result, Mr. Arun Jaitley was originally very hostile to me because of my great proximity to Shrimati Sushma Swaraj, the finest leader and the finest minister I've ever seen initially. But when he saw my openness and my fair-handedness, including on the basis of BJP complaint, I censured the law minister of the land who issues our appointment letter. So, and we charged it with 3 ministers on BJP's complaint. So, Mr. Jaitley, when he was giving his endorsement to my book, I wish I had those things in front of me, the kind of endorsement he gave me. So, you have to earn this. And I can also give you one very interesting human interest example, how we used to gain the trust of these people. Once at 10:30 in the night, day before counting, Laluji called me. And he said, Quraishi ji, tomorrow is counting. मेरी एक रिक्वेस्ट है, आप सुबह मेरी कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी में बैंकिंग स्टाफ को लगा दीजिएगा. उनको उन पे ज़्यादा ट्रस्ट था. वट एवर द रीज़न, आई डिडंट वांट टू गो इनटू दिस. मैंने कहा लालू जी आपने इतनी देर कर दी, अब तो सारी तैयारियां हैं, सुबह 8 बजे तो काउंटिंग शुरू होगी. मैं वादा तो नहीं करता, लेकिन मैं कोशिश करूँगा. उनको तो मैंने ये कहा कि वादा नहीं करता, लेकिन मैंने दिल में ठान ली कि मैं ये करके ही रहूँगा. Immediately I called up the CEO, move heaven and earth, this is what I want tomorrow. And we gave him banking staff. Now, any possibility of any complaint, if he loses and he looks for excuses, क्यों lose किया, election commission मेरे खिलाफ थी या नहीं थी, completely preempted. Next day evening at 11:30 he called me again. He was losing very badly. And he says, कुरैशी जी, मेरे मीटिंग में तो लाखों लोग आते थे और ये जो मैं कैसे मेरा रिजल्ट ऐसा आ गया, मैं यही सोच रहा था. तो बिफोर ही कुड से व्हाट ही वाज थिंकिंग, मैंने कहा साहब मैं बताता हूँ आप क्या सोच रहे थे. आप ईवीएम को ब्लेम करना सोच रहे थे. प्लीज़ ऐसी गलती ना करना. हार तो आप गए हो, आपका मजाक और उड़ेगा अगर आपने ईवीएम को ब्लेम कर दिया. Since I had earned his trust, he did not utter a word on EVM after that. You have to win the trust of the opposition. Here, opposition, 23 opposition leaders go to the Supreme Court that we are not getting an appointment. 2, 3, 4 years ago, what is happening? It's not democracy. It's not acceptable. So, same institution, same individuals, of course, incumbents may differ, coming from the same background. So, it all depends on our attitude and our. There was one more case I will not name. One chief minister who had doubted our EVMs, since you talked to me. That came, I will not even name the gender. So, he or she came with 5 MPs with a complaint against the EVM. हमने कहा था हम आपको डेमोस्ट्रेट करके दिखा देते हैं. हमारी एक राउंड टेबल है, अगर आप लोगों ने देखी होगी, किसी ने, रेणुका तुमने तो ज़रूर देखी होगी, तो उस पर हम डेमोस्ट्रेट कर रहे थे. तो वो चीफ मिनिस्टर was not watching the demonstration because if उन्होंने देख लिया होता तो सर्टिफिकेट हो जाता कि मैंने खुद देखा है तो ठीक ही है. तो वो इतना खड़े हो गए, इतना देख रहे थे इस साइड में, जैसे कि देख भी रहे हैं लेकिन ऑफिशियली नहीं देख रहे. फिर बाद में, लेकिन मेरी अच्छी उनसे क्रेडिबिलिटी थी, वो मुझे एक तरफ लगा, कुरैशी जी आप बताइए. मैंने कहा जी बिल्कुल 1 सेकंड का डाउट नहीं कीजिए, आई गारंटी दैट दीज ईवीएम्स आर टोटली डिपेंडेबल. चलो भाई चलो, कुरैशी जी ने कह दिया, हम उनको ट्रस्ट करते हैं। ये ट्रस्ट हमने हासिल करना होता है। क्या आज हासिल है और क्यों नहीं है, ये मैं जवाब नहीं दे सकता। जिन्होंने इसको खोया है वो जवाब दे।
Sir, I'll open the floor to questions. Vikas has a question.
I'm Vikas Patil. So just to add to the question that Ritika asked, now of course, right now the level of attacks from the election commission are unprecedented from the opposition. But sir, to an extent, do you think that the way our democracy functioned over the decades? So I'll give one example, for instance, that Mr. M.S. Gill was CEC. After that, he joined the Indian National Congress and became the Youth Affairs Minister and Sports Minister when the Commonwealth Games were on. So, do you think there has been some kind of like a precedent where even if he was fair as a CEC, he should have avoided after such a post to join a political party and become a minister?
तो आपका बहुत अच्छा सवाल है और ये सवाल मुझे बहुत पूछा गया है, particularly internationally. There is no bar in the constitution or in any law. Even I could have become anything, MLA or MP or a minister, but I personally feel ethically there is a conflict of interest. Because immediately गिल साहब पे ये सस्पेशन था कि इनको, हालांकि खुद उनके डिफेंस में वो कहते थे कि मुझे इमीडिएटली नहीं बना दिया, 3 साल बाद बनाया था, कि लेकिन ये होता है कि कोई क्विड प्रो को रहा होगा, इन्होंने ज़रूर कुछ कांग्रेस को फेवर किया होगा जिसके जवाब में उन्होंने ये बनाया. तो एक्चुअली this became a kind of a blot on the election commission which we were very hard put to explain. If I had said that on the record here, if such a thing was offered to me, I will refuse it outright, because for me the image of neutrality, even retrospectively, is more important than any these petty incentives. He should have avoided it. It didn't do much credit to the election commission. He is becoming an MP, later on a minister. Although there was earlier one more person who became a governor, Mr. Trivedi, but since it is beyond our memory, so we don't talk about it, but on the record, so there have been two such incidents, and they have all both not been great examples to follow.
I think even TN Session also, I think, fought election.
कौन बोला? अच्छा.
TN
TN
Session.
Session also, I think, fought election.
After, he fought election.
Against Advani.
No, but he fought election, but actually his achievement was so big. Although he became too ambitious and he really started believing that people think he's a great man. I'll give you one example on that also. I had gone to Bihar as an observer under him, and he was at the peak of his glory. We went to a BDO's office और मैंने पूछा कि जी इतना क्या यार लोग इस गांव में सेशन को लोग जानते हैं? अरे साहब वो इतना जानते हैं, रोज पूछने आते हैं कि आज सेशन साहब ने क्या ऑर्डर दिया. तो मैंने कहा अच्छा अगर इलेक्शन लड़ेंगे तो फिर तो बहुत अच्छे से जीत जाएंगे. कह लेंगे उनकी जमानत जब्त हो जाएगी. मैंने कहा वो क्यों? कह लेंगे उस वक्त उनकी जात पूछी जाएगी. So that is the reality. So it was a mistake, and actually but his achievement was so great that this mistake of he fighting a presidential election and Lok Sabha election against Advani have been forgotten and forgiven because of his larger great achievement, and he really was the need of the time. He did wonderful things. Also, when he said I eat politicians for breakfast, so it was very popular with everyone. But I don't think even he could have used this terminology, eating for breakfast, politician for breakfast, because in any case it is a sure way of indigestion.
You said you feel almost a personal hurt if the institution of CEC and EC is targeted and attacked. Now the latest attack against the EC has come a few minutes ago from Rahul Gandhi. So one, what do you feel about, in this case also he has attacked the CEC directly. One, what do you feel about that trend? And secondly, what do you feel also about the trend of the EC immediately coming to negate the allegations, in this case made at a very high profile press conference by Rahul Gandhi?
So number one, I have not heard this press conference because I was already here when this was happening, so I don't know what he said. But therefore, I am not in a position to comment on it. But he has been attacking the institution and the incumbent both. And I'm neither a spokesman for the Election Commission to defend it, nor a spokesman for Rahul Gandhi to support him. Therefore, I think, as you say, the CEC has already come out negating it. I think that ends the matter. There is an allegation, there is a defense. So let that end there.
But the fact that the CEC himself comes under attack now, which is not the
Okay,
case
yes,
the other time.
yeah, it's not a very happy situation for sure.
Mr. Gandhi has said
Mike,
software was used.
Please speak in mind.
Today's charge was that a software, an automated software was used to delete votes, some 6,000 plus votes in one of the Karnataka constituencies. Voters, yeah. So is it possible?
Well, I don't know. Number one, I don't know his specific allegation. And secondly, whatever be the allegation and howsoever absurd the allegation, it is for the Election Commission to respond and explain. Because he is not the only one he had to be explained to. All the audience also wants to know the answer. She asked me the question, you are asking the question. Both of you want to know the answer. Who will answer it? Somebody has to explain it. Okay, whether how absurd this claim is or how feasible this claim is, it has to be explained to the nation. Because my worry is not only the reputation of the Election Commission has taken a beating in the eyes of the politicians, which I think is not as important as in the eyes of the people. If the people lose trust, every day, I tweet anything about any good thing or indifferent thing on Twitter, there will be out of 10 replies, 3 will be, what about EVM? We are talking of Donald Trump, we are talking of somebody else, what about EVM? So the fact that EVM question has gone deep into the minds of the people, it's a serious matter. And if the people lose trust, the consequences are dangerous. I will not go further on that.
So in a different context, like political parties spend lots of money in polls. There is no upper limit, but there is no upper limit on the contribution they receive from companies or from anywhere, because you see in recent years, ruling party like BJP getting about more than 2,000 crore in a year in contributions, and that amount is growing year by year. So do you think that there should be a kind of upper limit set for the ruling party, or for that matter for other parties also to get contributions?
Well, the ruling party getting more contribution is a normal thing. So obviously, because businessmen only try to please the government, because it is not, there is no free lunch. They don't give this money without expecting returns in terms of contracts, in terms of license, in terms of bank loans, with which they will run away to London. So all these are reality. But when the electoral bonds were introduced, I have no complaint if a ruling party gets more money. I have no complaint. It's natural. But electoral bond was definitely an attempt to completely end the what is it? What is the word? Transparency, and complete opacity replaced it. So unfortunately, fortunately, Supreme Court declared it illegal and unconstitutional, and that is now history.
Krishna, what should replace electoral bonds? There was little speculation when the Supreme Court ruled the way it did that the government would come out with a scheme, but that has not happened.
Yeah.
What, in your view, should replace electoral?
Two things. Number one, first of all, the core issue here is there is the cap on the election expenditure. In fact, you remember the Prime Minister, when he just started his term, he said that there should be simultaneous poll because too many elections means a lot of money spent and a lot of time wasted. So there, after that I've been writing many articles from that day onwards, that the money power can be solved if there is a cap put on the political party's expenditure. Now, so there is no study. The Center for Media Study came out with 60,000 crore figure in the last election and about 1 lakh crore in the previous election, which is a huge money. It will come down 90% the day you put a cap. Okay, if MP can spend 90 lakhs, a similar 90 lakhs, a party can spend 90 lakhs. So, which means that the greed and the demand for those donations will also come down. And secondly, just electronic, by check and give a PAN number. All transaction, you and I, all the transactions that we are making, they're so transparent. There is a PAN number, somebody is already monitoring. So if there is an unusual transaction, you will get a notice from the income tax. So check payments and know and also I have also suddenly I now remember the solution which I was offering, that I used to say that there should be the state funding of political parties, not of elections, because that is impossible to monitor, but of political parties. And what is the difference? If we pay you 100 rupees, I had given this figure, if we pay you 100 rupees for every vote that you get, and 55, when I made this point earlier, 55 crore people had voted, which means 5,500 crores will be required to give away. Will that be enough? That was the question. Yes, that will be enough, because all the parties who declare their income to us, it was coming to 4,000. And here we were willing to give them 5,500 crores. Now it is 6,500 crores. So, and based on the performance. Now that performance cannot be fudged. Every other figure can be fudged, but not how many votes you got. So, and some people said, what about new party? I said, well, new party, first you have to invest your money, prove your credentials. We can't start giving money, then everybody will become a party, everybody will become a candidate. कि चलो सरकार लड़वा रही है election. Aam Aadmi Party fought the first election without money and won so many seats, and on the basis of the seat they won, they would have got crores of rupees. So, and 70% of the world countries already follow this system, particularly in Europe, state funding of political parties. And based on this, and then the question was, will you also give it to, what about independent? I say, I have no problem, give it to everybody. If you stand up as an independent, you get one vote, I'll be happy to give you 100 rupees, with which at least you will go and buy ice cream. So what is the, so no, instead of going, no, this will do this, instead of complicating, it's simple. Give it to every party, every candidate on the basis of the vote they get.
सर, इधर जब राहुल गांधी या किसी और भी नेता ने जब कोई कंप्लेंट की, तो इलेक्शन कमीशन ने कहा कि एफिडेविट भी दीजिए। जैसे समाजवादी पार्टी ने तो बताया कि 2022 के इलेक्शन में हमने 18,000 स्टैम्प पेपर में कंप्लेंट दी। इस प्रैक्टिस को कैसे देखते हैं आप? और जब आप सीईसी थे तो भी क्या इस तरह का कोई ऐसा कुछ प्रैक्टिस में था, या क्या और मेथड आप अडॉप्ट करते थे इसके लिए?
देखिए, मुझे इस पे कोई कमेंट नहीं करनी है, क्योंकि मेरी किताब पे ये हेडलाइन बन जाएगी और मेरी किताब पे से फोकस हट जाएगा, और इस पे तो 50 बार 50 कमेंट आ चुके हैं, 3 महीने से यही चल रहा है, इसलिए आई वुड रादर नॉट कमेंट, विद योर अपॉलॉजी टू यू, विद हर परमिशन.
Sir, how do you view these allegations of infiltrators and har bar around, doesn't matter whether it's a Lok Sabha election or it's an assembly election, and this allegation of demographic change which is being because the first thing that they always pick up around election time. As in your experience, how easy is this? How easy is this alleged process? Creating a is it possible? And how do you?
Let me use this opportunity to promote my book. I wrote a book 3 years ago called Population Myth, Islam, Family Planning and Politics, and it deals with all these issues. And the migrants, I will say nothing more that just pick up the replies of the government to parliament questions. Every year, how many infiltrators came? 1,200, 1,500, 2,000. Now, if a country of 1.445 billion, its demography gets upset by the figures given by the government in parliament, not my figures, so surely it needs to be re-examined.
So, in your book, I'll ask a couple of more questions about the book and then we can end.
Thank you very much.
So
Back to the book.
you spoke about digital democracy, disinformation. You've obviously been a very strong advocate for technology in elections. We spoke about how you supported EVMs, and in order to further entrench that trust in that, you introduced another machine. But in this day and age, technology is also disinformation. So, in your opinion, is technology further strengthening the electoral process, or do you think it's following up the electoral
Well,
elections?
yes. If you refer to technology, technology is a good thing, but technology is value neutral. How you use it. You know, a knife is very good. We cut vegetables and we eat food, but we can also use it for stabbing. So the same technology, if what is the end use, that is extremely important. So technology is fine. But if you were also referring to the social media, for me that's a very important development. And what happened in Nepal, you have already seen that because of social media, I would like a basic change in our current electoral system. We have been holding elections in the Lok Sabha elections in 6, 7 phases. Why? Because that was, and it was introduced by the redoubtable Mr. T.N. Session at the time because it was needed. There used to be 1,000 murders leading to the poll, and even 100, 200 murders on the poll day. So that is when we started using what is called paramilitary force, euphemistically, but the technical term is Central Armed Police Force, CRPF, BSF, and other. So we started sending them. Election became peaceful. Every party started demanding the CPC, Central Armed Forces, CAPF. That is that. I remember 2010 when my first election as CEC was Bihar, and Mr. Nitish Kumar as CM. He said, Quraishi, even if you have to do 10 phases, please bring CAPF. Now, this is very significant in more ways than one, because here is a chief minister who doesn't trust his police and he's asking for the central police to come and conduct election. So that is how important it had become. Now, but in the social media age, when the election is spread over so many days, apart from the expenditure about which Prime Minister is concerned, and in 7 phases over a prolonged period, social media can set the country on fire. So it is better, safer for us in a dangerous situation. It is always good that you finish your strike quickly and come back. I have written 2, 3 times that if I have my way, I'll do a single phase election. I'll go back to single phase election, and I'll reduce the 21 optional period that we have for politicking, and finish the election in 30 to 32 days. Because if it is 2.5 months, there's so much of time for hate speech, for so much of time for fake news and all that. In the change situation, and especially when otherwise the peace has been restored, the Maoist threat has been declined. The Home Minister is on record saying that all over the country the kind of peaceful conditions have been established. So in such a situation, keeping the election prolonged is not advisable, and for the reason I mentioned, it is will be better if we have a single phase 30-day election. That will take care of a whole lot of problems.
So, you also have a chapter on the democracy indices, how they're conducted, what purpose do they serve. But at the same time, you've also pointed out gaps in these indices. For instance, in case of India, particularly, you said that they don't take into account the role played by caste in Indian elections, and the fact that this has urban bias. So, given the gaps that you yourself have noticed in this indices, to what extent do you think the Indian government's dismissal of these rankings and indices is legitimate?
You know, when I was writing my book, which I mentioned again, I'm not promoting it, by the way, although it has just come out with a 7th edition, an undocumented wonder, the making of the great Indian election, in case you've forgotten. So I had, when I was about to finish that book, I came across Economist Intelligence Unit's Global Democracy Index, which had started in 2006, and I came across it in about 2013-14. And I saw India in the category the not democracies but flawed democracies. There are 4 categories: full democracies, flawed democracies, hybrid democracies, and authoritarian regime. Flawed democracies. My first reaction as an Indian was of anger, of conspiracy theory. Look, this is surely Western conspiracy to show down. They must have fixed up the parameters in such a way that India looks poor. But when I examine it in detail, why are we have a low ranking? We found exactly the same thing which we were concerned about, which we were talking about. Gender ratio in parliament 7%. Are we proud of it? Criminalization of politics, 46% of current MPs by their own affidavits, they have criminal cases pending against them. 300 million people in India are illiterate, more females, caste system, all these issues were bringing us our ranking down. And instead of introspecting, what I read a news item in Hindustan Times that somebody went to the economist office and complaining and protesting, "Well, how do you collect this data and what are your parameters and this, that, and the other?" They say, there is a tree outside, go and climb that tree. Don't teach us how to conduct these things. We are doing this in the 203 countries all over the world, same parameters. We are not going to invent parameters for you. And in fact, we even were presumptuous enough to say that, why do you take the trouble of collecting this data? We will give you the data. No? Do you think who? So instead of introspecting, and I'll give you one example why introspection matters. The Prime Minister once took note of the fact that in the index of ease of doing business, we were very low down. And he took note of it and he told everybody down the line that move heaven and earth, let us improve these indicators. And within a year, we improved 40 ranks. We can improve 40 ranks. Focus on literacy. In 3 years, we'll make it 100% literate. And we'll make it corruption free. And now that the women's bill is coming, I'm sure after 2019, same index will improve our ranking. So the rankings are very important. But of course, in this respect, in all these 8 countries, India is still number 1, despite being a flawed democracy. Then Sri Lanka also is a flawed democracy. We are 41, they are 67, pretty low down. Bhutan, hybrid regime. Nepal, hybrid regime. Bangladesh, hybrid. Pakistan, authoritarian regime. Afghanistan, authoritarian, and Pakistan was not authoritarian till a couple of years ago. So this index is very sensitive to what is happening, and the ranks keep moving up and down. So we have to think about that. And similarly, the VDEM called us electoral autocracy, and we were very, very upset. But all these, there are about 12 or 13 indexes. Mind you, I'm not using the word indices. Many people make the mistake and they edit me. Your editor should not do it. In these indexes are proper name. In the Global Democracy Index of EIU, Democracy Index of VDEM, and they of course use indices to evaluate. So there are 12, 13 indexes. In all of them, we figure somewhere in the middle. No one is showing us at the top for obvious reasons. And mind you, even USA, consider the greatest democracy, is pretty low, about 21, 22. And if they move down 2, 3 ranks, then I'm sure in the next ranking, they would go into flawed democracy. So because this index is very sensitive to what is happening, and we should be sensitive, we should do introspection and make an effort to improve our ranking. Right. If I may finally mention, this concerns you, the gender index. Something to be almost embarrassed about. Bangladesh is 99, number 1. Nepal is 117, number 2. Sri Lanka 122. Bhutan 124. India number 5 at 129. Now, freedom of press, World Freedom Index. इस पे तो आप लोगों को शर्म आनी चाहिए, right? We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nepal 74, press freedom. number one. Maldives 106, Bhutan 147, Sri Lanka 150, Pakistan 152, India 159, and going down, 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 down. And same people who want to, who are questioning the nation, and nation wants to know. So the nation wants to know why we are so low in our freedom, press freedom index. So these are matters of introspection, and it is in our hands, and they are all correctable if we just decide to.
So I'll ask the last question and we'll conclude the conversation. So in the book, you've proposed a South Asian forum for strengthening democracy. Sort of a regional electoral watchdog, and you've said that this should be sort of a civil society-led or an independent body-led organization. You've noted that there is the failure of SARC, but in that context, if a state-led cooperative body like that fails, how much of a success do you think a civil society-led body would have?
Yeah, the SARC which has failed is the political SARC, because since 2014, because Pakistan was the host and India refused to go, and the decision and the constitution of SARC is that every decision has to be unanimous. Even if one dissents, it's a veto, and decision cannot be taken. Now, but that is the political side, and we have a valid reason. There is a long debate on that. But at the same time, there is an organization called FEMBOSA, Forum for Election Management Bodies of South Asia. This is an association of election commissions of these countries. They are non-political. They are distant from the government. They have been. It was founded in my time. They have been meeting regularly because they are They are distant from the government. So similarly, the democracy forum, citizen-led, where the politics doesn't come in, because there is there is so much to learn from each other. Even in smaller countries which we treat with contempt as basket cases, they're so in many ways they are so much superior. But if we live in our own world of arrogance, so we will miss an opportunity. We have to learn from each other. And India, in any case, as the elder brother, not the big brother, as an elder brother, has a responsibility to do hand-holding of all these. And I have created an institution. Please, you must someday do a feature on that. It deserves a feature. I set up an India International Institute of Democracy and Election Management in the Election Commission, and now in the Dwarka Sector 13 opposite Radisson Hotel. Beautiful building on 5 acres. When I was setting it up, the Law Ministry opposed it tooth and nail. They thought I'm doing it for my children, whom Renuka knows and some of you know. So I was a CEC and it was ex officio. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh used to say, Quraishi, what you are building is our soft power, our soft diplomacy, and I'll give you the proof. In the last 12 years, 143 countries have sent their election managers for training in our institution. 143 countries, virtually 90 democratic countries have trained from us, including their election commissioners. Now India wants to become a wish guru. Election Commission is already a wish guru. Tell me if with these figures, if anybody can deny that. We have become a wish guru. That is the kind of role we need to play. And at that time, Prime Minister in a SARC summit announced that for these countries, that every year 2 batches of 30 each will be paid for 15 days each. So 1 month every year, 30 people and 30 plus 30, 60 people come and get training in thing under our ITEC, International Technical and Economic Cooperation. So government is spending. That's a very good thing. We should appreciate, and I'm sure all these countries, their great parameters, part of the contribution is from the learning they got from our own IIDM. So, but nobody, you don't even know about it. That's a pity. And I do suggest, तुम तो election ही cover करती हो, please do a feature on it. Find fault with it by all means. Find fault with me for something. And in fact, the very famous thing, the IFES agreement which we signed, and which became a hot topic for a very popular channel, which you all know and I will not name. So, the election commission itself, or maybe I release or IFS released that MOU, 4-page MOU. What was that MOU? It was in the context of this IIDM. We were going to train people from their different countries. How will we train Brazilian? How will we train South Africans? What do we know about South Africa? So we can train in the Indian elections. सोते में भी हम train कर सकते हैं. So that is where we need the help of IFAS, which is operating in 153 countries. हमने कहा कि look, we will give them training for free, but getting them over is your job. And please sit with us and customize courses for each country. So their experts came and our experts sat together and customized courses for all these countries, because so that when we teach them good elections, we have examples from their election laws. So then normally in a 4-page MOU, there will be only one clause which will say it has no financial or legal implication. But very foolish that we are, we mentioned it at 2 places that there will be no financial or legal implication. Even after that, till yesterday, some Chanakya criticized, brought in the same thing. Thing without reading the MOU. Please read the MOU. Please do a feature on it, and by all means, pillar me. But please read it. No, it should not be illiterate criticism. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.